This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, says that the country has exited a 3-year period of deficits and recorded a balance of payment surplus coming up to 6.83 billion naira in the year 6.83 billion dollars in 2024. A balance of payment surplus occurs when a country earns more from its global transactions, such as exports and foreign investments, than it spends, leading to a rise in its official reserves. Our guest this morning is Mukhtar Mohammed. Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed is an economist and international finance expert. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Sir, what is the significance of this announcement?
Well, for me, the major significance is that this is largely driven by trade, which makes it very exciting. You know, when you see some of these numbers before now, it's largely driven either by other things that are not trade. When you look at it, trade itself is the key driver of these numbers, which is good because trade created a surplus of over 13.17 billion in 2024. And that is aided by 48.3% surge in gas export and 24.6% rise in non-oil exports. So for me, that was interesting. The bulk of it came from trading, and that is for me is the good part. And again, we saw another good part on the import side. Petroleum import fell by 23%, while non-oil import declined by 12.something percent. That is also exciting. That means we are exporting more than we are importing. And for me, that is good.
Mr. Mohammed, for the sake of those of us who are not economists like yourself, can you speak to us on why it is we saw the deficits over the last 3 years and what has now made that we have recorded a surplus?
Well, the deficit last 3 years was largely driven by if you look at it, the last years was largely driven by economic issues that have to do with trade. Most of we were doing a lot of import rather than trade. We're struggling with our exchange rate. We're also struggling in meeting up with our export of crude oil. So that also have an impact on our reserve. So all this contributed to where we were 3 years ago. And you also shouldn't forget that 3 years also we're battling to maintain our exchange rate. And so we have a very depleted reserve at that time compared to what we have now.
There's a question on the extent to which this record that we've now posted, if you like, the extent to which it's driven by the monetary policy of the CBN versus fiscal policy from the executive side. The previous CBN governor had talked quite a bit about deviating from orthodoxy because Nigeria is an unorthodox case. But this CBN governor has been quite insistent on going back to the principles of orthodoxy for the central bank. Speak to us on just the significance of this shift and what the executive needs to do on the fiscal side to try to balance up or meet up to these gains that the CBN has been able to record.
I think largely the significance of this shift, if you look at it, is also largely driven by the monetary side on how they've been able to maintain FX inflow back to the economy. They've also been able to maintain a little bit of financial transparency into the economy. So that has been. But for the physical side, you can say the non-oil side, I've seen a little bit of it because again that is largely driven by the physical side in terms of export out of this country. So you can say that we are seeing a little bit of non-oil export, and also we have seen the physical side also did something extraordinary by the removal of that subsidy, and we have seen that import has come down, especially in the oil and gas sector, which is the key driver of Nigeria economy and also the key driver of our foreign reserve and also the key driver of our exchange rate in terms of volatility, because at that time we have over 90% of refined petroleum products imported into this country, and that was having a sale on our reserves. So those were largely driven by what the monetary policy has done.
We're at a time of global uncertainty when it comes to global economy, and even with the U.S. president announcing a suspension of or a moratorium on the tariffs that he'd imposed, a lot of people don't know where the global economy will sit by the end of the year. This begs the question of who will see more pressure and how they need to respond to that pressure. And by who, I mean between the monetary side of our economic policy and the fiscal side of our economic policy. Which of them do you think really needs to tighten the belt or approach new policies that might help stabilize the Nigerian economy?
I think the physical side will need to do more because, again, you see a budget benchmark of oil price of $75 per barrel. At close of OPEC yesterday, the international crude price have gone to about relatively between $60 per barrel. So we are already having a shortfall. So that means the physical side have to look at their expenditure, have to look at that budget again, have to rejig that budget. They're also struggling with the export in terms of export output of 2.06 million barrels per day. They've not even been able to get to 2 million barrels per day. So definitely it will be on the physical side to do a lot to see how they can improve security so that we can have more export in the oil and in our oil. They could also come up with more strategy on making sure that we have more import. More export, and that also reduce import. And I think that is a key driver so that they will not put too much pressure on our exchange. I think as it stands now, the physical sides need to do a lot, especially when you look at the budget expenditure that they are planning and the large type of political appointees. They have to see a reduction in the recurrent expenditure with the way we are going, and that would also see them also rejigging their point of borrowing, because they really need to look at it also. Do we need to borrow more, or do we need to begin to do PPP, public-private partnership, instead of borrowing? So I think everything lies in the door of the physical side at the moment.
Mr. Mohammed, thank you very much for your time and expertise on this conversation. Mukhtar Mohammed is an economist and international trade expert who joined us this morning to speak on the Central Bank of Nigeria's announcement that Nigeria's balance payment payment supplements for the year 2024, which are at $6.83 billion, actually marks the exit of a 3-year period of deficits. You're still listening to Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. We urge you to stay tuned. Our conversations continue, this time on the economy as it intersects with oil and gas. Do stay with us.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.